Okay, so a product owner takes stakeholder requirements and converts them into tickets for the developers to estimate. What do you think? Part of me screams inside, I'll be honest. But we have to get under the covers here. When it's a stakeholder requirement, what do we mean? When we say a ticket, what do we mean? Very often when we come across interview questions using language that may seem commonplace, we need to question it, we need to interrogate it a little bit more to understand what this organisation means with that word. A ticket. Okay, well, I know in a lot of systems people refer to tickets. I did do a tour of duty in the service desk in my early days of the career, and we had tickets, we had issues, they were often referred to as a ticket. And that I hear a lot across a lot of organisations. In and of itself, it's not a bad thing because it's just a generic term in the same way as a product backlog item is in Scrum. What they mean is some work. Or do they? Do they actually drill down to detailed requirement specifications that they're giving to developers? I don't know on the face of it because they've used the word ticket. So we need to drill down into that. We also need to understand better when we say a stakeholder requirement document, what is that? Are we talking a good old-fashioned requirement document, or are we talking about a conversation between a product owner and stakeholders to understand their needs? Okay, that is documented. Some of those could be good signs, some of them less good. What I want to really see from stakeholders all the way to developers is that a stakeholder, has a problem to solve. They have an idea that they want to see realised. They have an opportunity to explore in the product, and they're going to initiate a conversation with the product owner. And that may need to be documented because some of these things are very difficult. They're very hard to understand, and there are nuances that are important. But the product owner is going to work with that stakeholder to understand their need. What is it and why is it important to them? Okay? And then they're going to help translate that through product backlog refinement. Yes, a product backlog item, be it a user story or something else, is likely to be written at this point. But they're going to work with the team to refine that further, to understand it, to break it down. They may need to invite that stakeholder back into the conversation and say, right, we've got more questions for you. What about this? What about that? Have you thought about this problem? All the things that the developers and the product owner on reflection are coming up with. And in that conversation, it's absolutely reasonable for developers to start sizing their work, to start comparing it to other pieces of work they've done and thinking it's kind of like that size, or it's a bit like this. It's this type of problem. We're fairly comfortable with it, or there's a lot of research and we don't know. There's a lot of unknowns in this, and we're going to have to spin off a whole load of work just to understand it better. That's okay. That's reasonable. We have an ongoing conversation facilitated by a product owner between a customer, between a stakeholder and the developers, between somebody with a problem and those that can solve that problem. That is good collaborative working. If, however, what they're saying is somebody fills in a document, they email it to a product owner, the product owner plays ping pong a little bit via email to ask questions and things, and then hands it to developers and says, how long will that take? That's not a good place to be. You're not going to be able to solve anything in a collaborative approach. You're not lending yourself to an agile way of working. And I'll be brutally honest, you're not really setting yourself up for success in solving complex problems, because there is no easy conduit for communication. How do questions get back to the stakeholder without being misinterpreted, misrepresented? How do answers go the other way without the same problem? Okay. It is the problem we have with those traditional approaches of work, of that belief that we can write down in complete detail a problem that is unknown and unknowable beforehand, in such a way that people who have no connection with it can understand it and implement it. It's flawed as a way of thinking. If that is what an organisation is doing, it's not setting itself up for a lot of fun. It's going to struggle. It's going to say this agile thing doesn't work when in fact it's doing nothing to do with what we talk about when we say agile. So with questions like this, it's about understanding the languages that's in use. What do they mean by requirements document? What do they mean by ticket? Talk about the interactions more, understand, actually take me through that. So I'm a big fan in interviews of people who ask me to expand on questions, who ask insightful questions themselves to understand better the intent behind the questions. And this is a great example for that opportunity. You can start asking, well, when you say a requirements document, what do you mean? Can you give me an example? Could I see one? Can you take me through this process? How does it get from stakeholder to developer for them to be able to estimate? And that will give you a lot of insight into what do you think about that? Is it okay? If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.